lady couldn't describe them here. She said they're really good.
Trust her, yeah.
Well, good morning, everyone. Morning. Straight up 11, so I guess we'll get started. I think we got everybody that signed up for this. Hopefully you're in the right spot. Not there's a short walk that way or that way to get to the other workshops. My name's Todd Moser, and we're in the Lean Certification and Training at Rockwell Collins workshop. So over the next 40 minutes or so, I'm just going to go through a couple different things. Our journey on what we've done. I got an agenda here. Our Lean journey, the case for change, our Lean renewal training and certification, and lessons learned from our recent renewal and our revamp of our training and certification. So it's been about a 15-year journey that we've been on. We brought basic Lean tools into the organization in 1997. And in 1998, after using some of those basic tools, 5S, simplified Kaizen, which we call a radical, or RPI, Radical Process Improvement Initiative. We branded our Rockwell's methodology as Lean Electronics. We kind of, at Rockwell, we like to Rockwellize all the training and all the curriculum that we do. Probably most companies do that also. We had some other good stories as we went along on our Lean journey. In the early 2000 time frame, we did value stream mapping and core process optimization. We did Lean Roadmap. The Lean Roadmap was for the leaders. There was a roadmap on how to do value stream mapping from beginning to end. We did some other things, and you can see there on 2009 as we go through the journey timeline is when we had a Lean renewal, and that's what we're really going to focus on today. Is I'm going to take you around that time frame, 2008 to current, on some of the things that we did. So this is just part of the reference here. You know, up until that time, from 1997 until 2008, 2009, was the good years. I mean, we had double-digit growth within Rockwell Collins. We were acquiring companies. We were doing the right things with Lean. People were involved. We had great leadership support with that. And we basically got there. We high-fived each other, and we had hit the mark, right? So all our work was done. Unfortunately, you know, we thought we were better than we are, and not as good as we could be. That's actually a quote from an executive at Rockwell Collins. We kind of lost sight of what we were going after, took our eyes off the ball, because times were tough. We didn't have a burning platform. We really didn't. Like I said, we had good growth, and things were going well. So about that time in 2008, 2009, Clay and his leadership staff recognized this because of the economic downturn and some of the things, the market outside the market constraints that were happening, on why we might need to change. Some of the case for change, current business climate, the sales and earning growth per share had flattened at that time, 2008, 2009. We also had deteriorating business margins. The competition was catching us. We were far ahead of most of the other aerospace industries that we were competing against in the marketplace as far as continuous improvement, and they were catching up to us. Another case for change was the need for continuous success. We needed this because of that. We were in a position, I think, from a cash flow standpoint, and the way the market was showing, that we could be acquired, as with any company. So it was kind of a scary time. We weren't really positioned to spring forward either, the way we were operating, because we were operating as usual. So that was, we weren't focused on innovation and growth either, so that was kind of a scary thing. Some of the root causes, the cultural aspect, we had acquired quite a few companies, and with those new companies came processes that might not have had continuous improvement baked in. We had a lot of new employees that we didn't train up very well, and that we didn't have the curriculum revamped for those new employees. It was kind of, it was old. While we tried to keep it up, it was still old and it wasn't tailored to the current setting. I would have to say a lot of it was still manufacturing-based type training instead of engineering and office or transactional type training. So it didn't really resonate with the new employees. As an example, when I started with the company in 2008, the training that I got for onboarding was a 2-pitch slide from HR that talked about our lean initiative, training, and what was expected of me. And it was first day on the job, and the HR person looked at me, knowing me from a previous life, and said, "Why don't you tell them about it?" And I'm like, "I'm okay," because I had done lean in a previous job.
Did
So
you have mentoring or like regular project as part of your onboarding or anything like that?
they talked about some CBTs that you'd have to take, the expectation that was laid forward that you would be associate certified, so we had the entry-level certification in place as an associate, just some of those things, and some of the things that they had done in the past, but the slides were dated, some of the great things that they did in 2004 versus current. So when the question was asked in 2008, what have we done lately, there wasn't really anything to talk about as a story. We started getting to a point too with those employees that they didn't understand who their customers were going to be. So they didn't understand why to improve a process because they didn't understand their tie to the customer either. So that was really difficult from a cultural standpoint. We also were growing very fast. Like I said, we acquired the companies. Sales were good, so we were adding a lot of people. I think we had at that time 24,000 worldwide employees, and that was just phenomenal growth at that time. Another root cause was leadership. We didn't do a real good job of teaching leadership or requiring them to understand the basic tools of continuous improvement, whether it be Lean or Six Sigma. We had, at that time, I think, we had probably 2,500 that were considered in the leadership band, and only 200 or 300 of those folks that actually had a formal certification. Our formal certification at Rockwell is called Champion for the leadership level. So they didn't really have even an awareness of what Lean was or what they could do with Lean within their organizations. We were kind of short-sighted also, short-term focused. Leadership wasn't putting their best and their brightest on the projects. They were putting a lot of people on projects that had availability. So that's not always a good recipe for success when problems arose, and they weren't looking strategically at the issues either, doing a lot of firefighting. So, process-driven. Again, we had many people because of the acquisitions and the new hires. They didn't know about Lean tools. They had no common baseline on how to use the tools, and it was tough. Again, so we had 400 of the leaders that maybe knew the tools. At that time, that would leave about 22,000. We only had 9,000 that had some type of certification or some type of training up until that time of associates. So that left us a void of about 12,000 folks that got the same thing that I did at New Hire Orientation. And then were put in their job and were taught the skills that they needed for their job, but not Lean, specific continuous improvement, specific type tools. And then there was a root cause for the client enterprise perception also. So that we assumed we made it. Again, I told you that things were going good. We didn't have a growing platform, and people just didn't want to use Lean to fix things or take a step back and take the time to fix things because they knew they could still hit timelines or the timelines that they set without using Lean, instead of maybe taking that extra time for one time and stretching it out and saving time the next time through. So that's just an industry quote there that I put on the bottom as a takeaway. And that's true with Rockwell Collins also. While we've always had good leadership from Clay Jones, and we've had pockets of leadership that I'd say from Clay level ones, which are Clay's direct reports. Leaders get busy with their day-to-day jobs, and they haven't baked it into their day-to-day jobs of doing continuous improvement within projects or fixing problems. So again, we're going to focus on the Lean renewal. So that's about the 2008-2009 timeframe. When I say it's about the 2008 timeframe, I think that's when the discussion started to happen at Clay's level, the CEO's level, and his organization. What he did at that time, just a little bit more history. Prior to that, we had a couple separate groups. In the enterprise level, we had a Six Sigma group, and we had a Lean group, and they were separate. coins that term. That was a big deal actually, because before that, before he put it under himself, we reported to e-business operations for a while. I forget where else, Brian. Is that
Yeah.
the two big ones?
A couple layers under.
So it's tough. I'll tell you, it's tough if you don't report to the CEO and you're treated as Switzerland, because when you're tied to operations, you kind of do a lot of the projects in operations. If you're in e-business, you're starting to do a lot of the projects in e-business, and you don't get pulled from the other parts of the organization to have good cross-representation. The level 1 leaders, Clay's direct reports set up, and we'd always had a lean advisory council of everybody on the business units and shared services. But in 2009, that LAC, that I'll refer to as the lean advisory council, was built around more robust, and more expectations were placed upon that group going forward. So it was recognized that not just the lean electronics group, a group of 7 or 8 folks, could do this across the organization, but they had to leverage people within the actual business solutions shared services. So that was a big deal. You'll see here also full and part-time lean practitioners within each business unit and shared service. So some of the course correction components, we realized that we had to establish a foundation again. We didn't know where that bar was at with all the employees. Some people were way up here, some people had nothing, just the 2 hours of training, and we didn't know a lot of folks were coming in from outside the company that we didn't recognize as even having lean experience, which they did from other companies that we could leverage. We hadn't done a good job in preparing leaders to effectively lead lean. We haven't given them the tools, the cookbook, so to speak, on how to actually plan events or go out and define a business case or a problem, define a problem, and how to lead that through the whole life cycle of a lean event. And we weren't creating an environment of continuous improvement, so there was no communications that were going on. I mean, I shouldn't say no, there was some, but it was sporadic, and it was, I guess, hidden. It was hard to find the communications. We also didn't align lean activities to business goals, so we had no way of tracing back the improvements that we made to tie back to a business goal or a scorecard. So we did a very bad job of that. And then making lean an integral part of how we do our business wasn't part of our business back in 2009. So kind of the infrastructure and talking about that case for change there and what we did in the renewal. So again, the CEO and executive management team, they supported the lean renewal. That was huge because I felt at that time we were doing it from a grassroots effort, and that doesn't work. If you can point me to a company where a grassroots effort has worked with this type of initiative, you could probably write a book and make a lot of money. But with us, that was key. Is Clay, while he never has mandated certification or training or projects, because he wants his leadership to want to do it, not have to do it. By him just saying that, it's kind of a mandate, right? It's kind of a mandate from the CEO. He also empowered the employees to make improvements for the betterment of the company. He gave various pitches and emails where he said, it's okay if we see something wrong on the line to pull that cord and stop it. And prior to that, there's always been that fear within Rockwell Collins. You got to make schedule. You got to make schedule. You got to make schedule. I'm not going to hold it up. And he also started holding his leaders accountable to become certified. So there was some mandates, some initiatives around the certification process for the entire organization. Again, we have three types of, actually 4 types of certification. We have associates for all employees, a champion, which is for leaders, and principal and master for the lean gurus, so to speak, or practitioners within lean. But he did set some mandates for everybody will come up to a certain bar at a certain time, which was this past March 2012, that you will take some mandatory training, some computer-based training. You will all get certified, whether it be an associate certification or a champion certification. And he pushed that. He pushed that, and his leadership pushed that. So The second piece is the employees. Again, we had two groups, leaders and individual contributors, that we broke them into. We did the new mandatory training, the awareness training. We actually created 2 CBTs, a complete revamp of some of the CBTs that we had, which was Lean and Rockwell Collins Overview, which was a 30-minute computer-based training module that everybody has to take. And then we created an 8-step problem solving. So we created 8-step problem solving around the Plan, Do, Check, Act problem solving methodology. And it's simple tools. We created badge cards and some communication pieces, strategies around it. We gave them badge cards on identifying a problem and defining that problem and then fixing the problem within a Plan, Do, Check, Act in 8 simple steps. We also revamped our certification requirements, and that's what we'll go into a little bit later, is the curriculum and the certification requirements that we did. But that was huge, because before, I would have to say, I got some of my team in here, but a lot of it was, while you had to apply the knowledge, a lot of it was just having the awareness, reading the books, taking the CBTs, and it really we didn't really push a lot of the involvement of participating in events. And we thought, that's what we have to go to, is not so much of the academia piece of it, but really get people involved and learn by doing. Again, all the employees were to meet the new requirements by March of 2012. So that put us on an 18-month path where a group of 8 of us had to go out, create the curriculum, create databases, and we'll see that later, train up about 9,000 employees. So got some lessons learned on that one that I'll share with you on how to attack 9,000 employees that are spread out across the globe and train them. Because on March 30th, we presented out, and we only had 8 people that didn't meet those requirements, and they were service tech on the tarmac in Siberia. I mean, seriously, there was somebody in Afghanistan that's like, you can hear gunfire when he's on the phone saying, how do I get my DVD to complete my training? Worry about it. So we did good. We pushed it hard. I'm not kidding either. We had another group here, the Lean Advisory Council. So again, we had a council in place, but I can say this because I was at the council prior to and then after the renewal. The prior to was just an informative report out. People came and took notes. The council members changed periodically. We put some things in place, roles and responsibilities of the council members, and we made sure that the right people were in place. So we said that a Lean council member would solicit and manage potential projects, ideas from the business. They lead Lean assessment activities and determine training needs, ensure alignment of strategy to the enterprise level and other business units. That's pretty key, because we didn't have that before, and delivers communication and strategy to the units. Now, recently we've just, and this isn't part of the slide deck, but I've aligned my team with each one of those business units that they meet now with the council members also, so they're embedded. My team is also embedded within the business units and shared services, and I think that's been a big win. The next group is Lean Electronics Group. So I think we're in a mode of, prior to the renewal, we're very much in the mode of doing events, facilitating events. We were the people that you wanted to go to when you had an event that was cross-functional, that you were going to have a bunch of head knockers, that we had seasoned folks that could do that and knew the tools inside and out. And we spent a lot of that time. We flipped. We flipped to creating curriculum, creating strategy on that, and went away from doing a lot of facilitation, but mentoring the folks so they could facilitate their own events. I think that was a big turning point. And kind of hard for us to do a little bit, but it was key, because I'll say it, my group, best and the brightest in the organization when it comes to Lean and continuous improvement. And they've been around the block. I can't say it any way else than that. So to get them out of the daily grind of doing events, which are important, don't get me wrong, but to get them into that strategy hat and thinking of that and where we should go 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, so we don't lose the momentum again, was key. So again, I've also been tasked to coordinate Lean strategies across the business units. That's part of the focal teach, mentor, and develop the enterprise. They are the voice of Lean at the Executive Leadership Board, and also communicate the strategy. So prior to that, that second to last bullet, that's Candace. That's our new director. And prior to that, we didn't have a place on the board because we were reported up through operations. So operations had their vice president that sat there, and Lean was never even talked about at Clay's level, even though it was a big thing, and he supported it. It never got spoken about. Well, now we sit at the Executive Leadership Board. We talk about Lean. They talk about Lean plans. So that was a big deal to have that happen. And also the communication. I would also put on there communication and change strategy. So which is part of a change strategy. Communication strategy is key for this renewal to happen. Last group is our Lean practitioners. So I forget the number prior to, but how many people that we had trained as a principal, that advanced certification level, which was our practitioners at the principal or master level. But the problem we found was people were getting certified back in 2002, 2003, and then never doing anything again, but wearing that badge probably that they're a Lean master. But they never touched it again. So, you know, we wanted to set up that group where, for lack of better terms, it's to maintain that certification. It's like a driver's test. You got to take a test. You got to do so many events, and you got to test your knowledge on a yearly basis to maintain that, to ensure that you're staying fresh. I mean, it's like having a doctor that never goes back and reads anything, but practices the old way forever and ever and gives you a shot of penicillin. You want to keep them fresh with the latest and greatest. So our Lean practitioners, they manage Lean projects and help facilitate events, help support Lean training. Again, this is the big group that we had set up as a network for the 18-month push that we had to get over the hump, all the people that we had to train for these groups here. Partner with and trained by Lean consultants. So we set up a mentoring. We'd always mentored well. That's one thing our group did, but we really put emphasis on that is, you know, as you're learning and we're switching from just the learning from the books and CBTs and the classroom style teaching, you also want to sit with somebody as a mentor that can go through so you can help facilitate events, help use the tools, and an expert can really help you out on going down that whole journey for yourself. Some of the other infrastructure that we had to think about is the tracking and reporting. So we had to set up, I think, 4 or 5 different tools, one of which was a web page that housed all our information. Our old stuff was hard to get to. It wasn't complete. We had to set up a My Certification tool. So if we're requiring certifications for employees, we wanted to give them a one-stop shop that said, you know, this is what you have to do to either get your initial certification, you know, really easy to read, user-friendly, or if you're having to maintain it, this is what you have to do in the timeline that you have to do it. So you'll see this on the next slide, or on the next couple slides. There's some of the maintenance requirements for associates. We're requiring something to be done every 2 fiscal years. And for champions, it's every fiscal year. And for advanced certification, it's every year from the past of their when they first initially got certified. So we had to create that tool. We also had to create a recording tool because some of the requirements are, we're asking them to do education, still stay with the education, still read books, still go to conferences like this to partner with, and also do an activity. So we had to set up a tool that they could actually track that, house that. And then, of course, if you're tracking it, you need a reporting tool to bring it back out, because guess what, at the SLC level, Clay's level, and his team, they want to see who's not doing what, and you don't want to be on that list. So, plus from an organization, you can also see if you have things on the list, if they're not choosing it, take it off. If there's something that they're using heavily, maybe turn that CBET into an instructor-led training type class. So we've used that a lot. Another tool that we didn't talk about from the advanced side is Brian Hurley actually sitting back there. He created the self-assessment. So we changed our certification for masters and principals to actually, when you come in the door, since we had so many new people and we didn't know if these folks had had previous certifications at other companies, skill sets.
37.
37 different skill sets where they're self-ranking themselves. But the kicker is, once they rank themselves, they get reviewed by a mentor as a master. And if you're submitting for a master, you get mentored or reviewed by a panel of 3 masters. So you get interviewed basically on the scores that you put. And the other thing is, if you're putting a high score, you get told you're going to get called as a mentor, so you better not jimmy rig the system, because you're going to get that call if you think you're an expert on some statistical type tool. So we brought that up to speed also, and that was key as far as the infrastructure on what we were trying to do with the renewal. And if you have any questions, please fire away. We can break my stride here a little bit. So some of the actions, again, establish a training and mentoring network. We realized real soon, again, that we had to train all over the world. And while I sent my team all over the world, you know, after 3 or 4 weeks on the road, we realized that we had to, as we were going out, train the trainers with the folks that they were there. So we could know that when new training or new mandatory requirements came up, we didn't have to go back to that site, keep going back to that site. We leveraged internally the practitioners that we had in place that had trained for us before, and we expanded that to, I think, probably 50 or 60 people that helped us train. Reporting and tracking infrastructure, you saw a little bullet on that on the previous page, and that was big. I think we built that as it was out of necessity, and we've been refining that as we go, but that's been key also, some of the dashboard metrics and where the organization sits as far as getting the training and certification. Communication strategy, again, this is change management strategy. We quickly realized that while we thought we could do this on our own, we needed to involve the people that really knew how to do it, corporate development, corporate communications, because a lot of the team is, you know, math people, so not good at writing really concise type communications to the enterprise. So some of that strategy was you know, the awareness piece, creating the business case, the need for change, creating the buy-in within the organization. Because you know, if you drop that bomb of you got to go out and take these classes and do all this, and it's required, people pretty much shut down. So you have to show what's in it for them and why they should do it. And we had corporate comm help us with that. Lean plan's part of the annual operating plan, so that's just this year. They've baked in. They've always been set off to the side on the savings. They've actually made that part of the operating plan to say this business unit will save this much through the lean plans and the lean initiatives, which is big, and they're being held accountable. So yesterday we had our conference. I don't know if you know that, from Rockwell Collins, and every leader that came in threw up their lean plan. And that's the first time I've seen that. And they were talking about how they're going through it and how they're meeting their numbers in the dashboards and which ones are red. And you know, just as an overview for the group, I'm like, we're getting there. We're getting there. The big thing, and this is why you're sitting here, is a little insight to our overhauling curriculum and certification requirements. So, of course, we had to look at all of our training, who was doing the training, and how we were certifying, because Clay hadn't thought all through that. He just knew that everybody should be up to this level, let's call it associate, and everybody at the leadership should be at the champion level in 18 months. Actually, he gave us, and I think some folks on his staff were wanting 12 months, and Clay at least gave us 18. So,
That was nice.
yeah. It was tough. So a little quote here: no one stays on top forever, and must not let success breed complacency. That's Clay. That's Clay. Says that a lot.
Around the company, yeah, they call it the C word. And when somebody says the C word, you know what it is, complacency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, that's Mark uses that a lot. He uses the quote too as good is the enemy of great. It's a quote from a book.
Yes.
And you know, that's where we're at before the renewal. Again, just why? We're hitting double-digit growth, we're acquiring, we're cash rich, and then he wasn't. So walk you through the 3 or 4 levels here of the certification on what we did. Kind of a busy chart. It'll even get busier when I show you the advanced certification, but focus So the awareness piece, I don't think I have it. Yep. So this line up here was the awareness piece for the initial certification. So we knew when you develop a CBT or computer-based training module, you know that it's just going to be awareness. You're not going to get real practical application out of a CBT. You're just not, because they're not doing it. They're not having the interaction between an instructor. So we developed 3, Lean at Rockwell Lean at Rockwell Collins, and Lean Problem Solving, that we felt that everybody in the organization should have. Then we said, for applying it to your day-to-day work, every associate, which is not a leader, which is about 18,000 now folks, they have to do a demonstrated activity, and for this first time out of the gate, we gave them an OR. So we created a 2-hour simulation. It's a hands-on simulation where we just teach area constraints and flow. That's it. It's probably, I'm sure your companies have the same thing. You're passing widgets or you're passing paperwork. You mess it up so bad that they can't even get one through the gate in 10 minutes, but by the end of the day, they're passing 100 through in 5 minutes, with no errors. And then you have the team figure out how to fix that flow, and they can change some things, and you throw some monkey wrenches into that simulation, but you do some light teaching on area constraints and flow on that. So we did that, and again, we said, if you don't want to take the class, go out and get an event. Go to a burst event, a 5S event, go out and sit in on a Valley Stream Management event, or something where you have application. And that's where our bar is going to be. You have some awareness, and you have some application. Right? Now, since we've shifted out of that, we've hit the mandatory March 2012 deadline. You'll see here as required. We didn't put anything on this year as required. The organization from Clay's level said, give us a breather. We have some ethics and compliance training that's going to be mandatory. We have some other things mandatory. So we're real conscious about the number of hours that are mandatory throughout the organization. And Lean is just one small comp of it. There's so many other things that the employees are getting hit with. So we're giving them a breather, but we're not giving them a breather on every 2 years. Every 2 fiscal years, you have to do one activity and one continuing education credit. And again, an activity could be sitting in an event, doing an electronic 5S, a 5S, anything of that nature. Continuing education is something like we're doing here today, reading a book, watching the CBT. We have a whole myriad of CBTs, computer-based training modules that they can go look at, but they still have to do that to maintain it, and that's a requirement.
In just an hour? Is that what?
Yeah, so like 30 minutes CBT would count as a half credit, so just an hour.
But reading a book,
That would give
9
them
or 10
8.
years?
No, so yeah, if you read a book, you'd get 8 credits,
Okay.
and then that'd be more than enough, which is fine. And I don't know how many people we have that are associate level that go out and do the extra. I think quite a few actually, but most of them take our CBTs because they are a half hour, 40 minutes at length, and pretty easy to knock out. So and then we also grandfathered some folks in, and we cut it off at 5 years because we said the training that we revamped is fairly similar to the stuff that we offered 5 years ago, but we're not going to grandfather it in that if you got it 10 years ago and you haven't done anything with it. You got to refresh it. You got to keep it fresh and then keep it fresh going forward. So the next one was champion certification. Again, they're part of the all employees, so they had to do the 2 CBTs. And then we revamped our champion seminar. We revamped it to make it very interactive with tabletop discussions on leadership. We forced them to bring the lean plans in with them to discuss their own lean plans. And we went through the lean roadmap with this one-day training. It was very interactive. Yeah?
I may have missed this, but in order to be a champion, you have to be a manager.
You have to be a leader.
Right.
Yeah, but you can, in Rockwell, you can take that class if you're an associate. It's just we don't recognize them as being champion. The system will, but we don't give you that certificate or the lanyard anymore to say that you're champion. And the bad thing is, well, not the bad thing, but this is really geared for leadership. To be an associate to sit in this would be difficult to understand because you're talking about lean plans, AOP, various things like that.
But if it was someone who's on track, let's say, leadership
Exactly,
track is, supervisor may see that as a
Is this part of a succession plan?
It is. So while it's not in place right now, that was something that we stood up Rockwell Collins University at the same time that all this was standing up. And then we stood up schools within Rockwell Collins University. School of Lee is one of them, School of Essential Studies, School of Leadership. So I'm diving down a little bit here, so hold on. And within those schools, we've developed training plans and career pathing plans. But those haven't been formally pushed out to the organization. We're building them as we speak to say, you know, if you want to be this, you have to do this, this, and this. If you want to be a master, you have to do this, this, and this.
Can I do follow-up?
Yeah, definitely.
Have you done any studies on the shelf life of lean?
So ask that a different way.
Level of knowledge.
Yep.
How long do I retain that knowledge if I don't practice it?
I don't think so. We haven't done any studies, and we haven't done any benchmarking on that. Mark, do that sound like anything that we've done? I think we just guesstimated. We had a gut feel.
Just 5 years just seems
Right,
like a
I mean,
long time.
and just like,
We did too, you know.
We had a lot of people that initially certified as lean masters, for example, and they went off in other roles, and they didn't practice it for several years. Well, obviously, that's left the building, right? And it's not coming back, so.
and I guess I can speak from my personal experience. So I was heavily involved in Six Sigma and Lean before becoming a manager, and my self-assessment was fairly high score. And I went back around because I had to maintain it and recertify again this year, and I dropped my scores because I'm not touching it on a day-to-day basis. And to be honest with the actual assessment and myself, when it asked, could I answer this question if somebody came up to me and I could explain it and they could know how to do a design of experiment, as an example, I would probably have to go back to my desk and pull out, you know, versus right on my mind where these guys that are living it on my team every day, they're still 5 because they're doing it every day. So I think retention knowledge is close to that 1 to 2 years when you step away from it a little bit. You still know it, you still know where to find it, and once you read it again, you can retain it again, but you lose it fairly quick when you don't use it.
So really difficult question here now.
Okay, I'll let Brian answer.
Brian, does that lead to complacency?
Could, you know, I never thought of that, but I'm sure it could because, yeah. If I don't feel comfortable with it, from personal experience, if I don't feel comfortable using the tool, I might shy away from it, and I don't force myself into being a 5 and going out and mentoring somebody. You have something else?
Yeah, I was just going to add, so where we wanted to kind of draw the line is once you've had the experience of applying a tool, we think you'll be able to say, okay, I can see where I can apply that elsewhere in the future. Then once you get to that, you know, 4 or 5 level that we call it, you're gonna lose that expertise pretty quickly, but hopefully you can again regain that fairly quick. The other thing is that as you look at your scores every year, you have to come up with an improvement plan on what you're going to either get back to where you want to. So Todd, maybe he wants to get back to that 5 level. What's he going to do to refresh himself on that content? Or maybe he says, I'm kind of low on this area. I'd like to learn. This is really what I'm dealing with on my new role. What do I need to do to learn on that different skill set? Maybe I don't need to know DOE anymore. And maybe I'm okay at where I'm at with that knowledge, but I do want to learn more here, or I want to get back to that 5 level. And so I better go back and maybe take a quick DOE course or a webinar or something like that. It's pretty flexible for the employee to kind of decide where they want to be proficient at.
So that's a good point, that's good questions, and I guess, you know, we haven't really heard our head around some of those questions, we just made some assumptions and kind of drill in the same.
But you do have the maintaining, something you need to do every year to maintain that.
Yeah,
In some ways.
and that's, yeah, and what you're pointing at here is the champion, so you can see here on the champion piece, a demonstrated activity, and they're required to do 4 continuing credits, so it's a little bit more than associate. And that's, an associate was every 2 years. This is every year for a champion. And I will say, now that we got everybody certified again, we started looking at the metrics. We got that initial push to make sure that we had everybody certified. Now we started looking at the folks that were coming up on that 1 year that had to recertify. And just a month and a half ago, we were only at 27%. So there again, I mean, you take your foot off the throttle just for 1 little bit, and then we start communicating this side of it to say, hey, we're not done. We're this every year. They're like, really? Where was that in the communication? Oh, geez. On the webpage, on today at Rockwell Collins news article, just like
We're
that.
probably pretty busy from October,
Yeah.
whenever the year is.
Yeah.
Maybe the first part of the year, those folks just like getting in.
Yeah, I don't know. We do have a rush. We do have a rush. Our fiscal year goes from September to October, so we do have a rush, and we're preparing for it. July, August, September timeframe, the last quarter of the year that we're going to get. Our library is going to be depleted for the continuing education, and they're going to be calling us to say, do you have an activity that I can get in on? And no, you're a leader. You should probably find something to improve within your organization. But that's tough, and you gotta stay on it, stay on it.
Can you get me on any events? Here's a link to the calendar.
Yeah.
I was impressed with your mentoring that you did earlier. We lost that now.
No, that's actually,
Mentoring actually fit into some of these too.
yeah, with the champion associate, it's more prevalent probably with the advanced certification pieces. We actually, the way the database is set up, when you mark yourself a high score, it puts your name out there to mentor, and for folks that are trying to get up to that level to do that. But I mean, that's what we're really pushing within our organization and with all the practitioners, is to not only mentor, other practitioners up to a certain level, and we talked about this yesterday, but how do we mentor our leadership, and how do we develop curriculum for our leadership as lean masters to walking down that path. So now it's going to get real busy, but I'll just kind of walk you through this. I wanted to do this busy because you guys have the opportunity to get this slide deck. So what you're seeing over here on the left-hand side are some of the requirements, the initial requirements for principal certification and master. Just know that we kicked off by just asking to do the validated self-assessment. And those attributes that we're asking for, you can't get away with just awareness and knowledge within those attributes. So to get yourself to a high enough score, you've had to have led or participated or used those tools in multiple areas to get a high enough score to become a master, specifically principal, maybe one of the areas, engineering, manufacturing, or transactional type office environment. So we washed all certification clean and said, if you're a master in the past, you got to do this going forward to see where you're at. And I don't know the ratio off the top of my head, but I would say, 500, 600 folks before, and now we've built it back up to 400 that are serious about it, that have gone through this, that have sat through the panel, that want to be a principal or a master, that want to maintain their certification because they're teaching it, they're practicing it, they're facilitating events. But what you see over here on the right-hand side is just a screenshot of the Lean Proficiency Self-Assessment. And I have, on the tail end of this document, I have backup slides that actually show some of the screenshots of the criteria that we put together for this. And by no means was this an afternoon and we put this together. Everything is decided upon by committee at Rockwell Collins. So this had to go all the way up from us in a think tank to the LAC, to the SLC, change it back down, and do that again, change it back down and do that again until everybody was comfortable with that, which is good. I mean, it creates the buy-in, the shared need. Now what you see at the bottom here for the advanced lean certification is this has changed. Well, we're going to raise the bar slowly because we want to make it attainable for the champion associates. This is going to get steep here for people that are serious about being that practitioner or that advanced certification person within our organization. So we require not only the proficiency self-assessment, we're also kicking up the lean activities and the education credits year over year. And then we've also developed an exam. We've never had that before. So the exam right now is more for a guide, a compass. They take it. It's not a pass-fail, so if you don't pass the test. But I come from my GE side, and I want to turn that into a pass-fail, eventually. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, and they're pretty hard questions.
Are they like application type questions?
Yep.
It's like applying
Yep.
concepts, new scenarios,
Yep.
laying out scenarios and saying, what would you do?
Yeah. So we're implementing that now to go along with not only the education and the activity piece of that for the principals and masters within the organization.
So does principal and master fall in place with that?
So it kind of like runs along parallel, because a champion could be a principal and master also. So I'm a leader,
Right,
I'm champion certified, and I'm also master certified.
right.
So,
But not principal?
well, so principals below master. I mean, it takes a lot more to get, so as an example, the scores, you would get 3s on your self-assessment as a principal.
Right.
You'd have to do 4s and most of the 5s to become a master.
So can an associate become a master
Definitely,
without being a leader?
definitely. Yep. That's the rest of that's the group and everybody else, yep.
And then as a principal and a master, do they have like, I want to say, specific goals that they're trying to achieve since they're at this level? This is how much mentoring they're going to be doing, this is how much.
It's an expectation. It's an expectation that we've rolled out as far as roles and responsibilities that we've told them. And basically, to maintain that certification in the questions that we have within the proficiency self-assessment, I don't see that there's any way that you can't do that and still maintain your scores high enough to maintain that year over year.
So that's the self-assessment, so you're engaging that you're, and they're being engaged in.
Right.
you know,
And it's subjective. It's subjective, but that's why we get a panel and we get people that have worked with these folks that are at this, a master that's within the same business unit or organization. But that's kind of how we structured it. We couldn't think of any better way, because the test, nobody wanted to do the test at Rockwell. Nobody. And people are scared to death of it. I'm kind of scared of it after seeing my team put it together. But, so we had to think of something, and the self-assessment really helps for the folks, the people that we've acquired. It really helps, because we had this whole population out there that we had no idea had certifications from other companies that could come in, and we used to say, you got to start from scratch, you got to do these 40 CVTs, you got to do these 6 events, you got to do all this stuff. And they're like, I've been, sensei for 12 years at Toyota. You really? Like, yeah, really. So we've changed that. So now we can do that. We can have a panel review and say, do you really know your stuff or not? Is this person, do we feel comfortable with this person being a master and facilitating?
So what percent of your folks that go into a panel actually pass? Is there a
50%.
50%.
about half?
Yeah, so
That's actually.
you usually have that conversation where they think they're a 5, which is the high score, and they're really a 2. And the trick is having that conversation to make them believe that they are a 2 also. And not be degrading or anything like that or demeaning to them. But usually at the end of the day, I would say all those folks come out and say, yeah, I really should need to do these things to get me up to this level. Because what scares them is saying, all right, I'll lead you there, but you're getting the first call because we're putting you on the first list that says you're going to be a mentor for somebody. And you're going to get found out real quick the way we have our system set up. So.
Do you
What
also?
questions are on that system? Are they just open in, like, here's a statement, I grade myself on the
Yep.
no application, anything like that? Just
It is, so it does ask you that. Have you applied this tool in one or more business areas with a cross-functional team type thing? It's subjective, but we try to drill that out in an interview and panel process with other masters that know their stuff, and they can kind of see through that.
It also provides examples too.
Yep.
It'll say, a Kaizen event, and then it'll give examples of types of Kaizen events, so you can kind of get a good understanding of the range you can do, not just the specific thing for the self-assessment anyway.
Right.
Are you also encouraging people to become Jonas on your Golder Institute? Because you've mentioned theory of constraints a few times, and I'm just curious about that.
To encourage, we don't discourage it. I don't think we hold it out there, because that's part of the things that they can do for their education, and it certainly would help them get to a certain score or 2 across the board, whether it's our training or outside training. We send a lot of our folks, we don't have a structured black belt, green belt program. I know we point them towards Gary's organization. We point them towards, some people have gone to the University of Texas just for no other reason but to try that out and see how that is, to get their certification. ASQ is big, right, any ASQ training. So we don't discourage it, but I don't think we hold it out and say, this is where we should go. So lessons learned quick, we just have a couple minutes and keep asking questions, but Again, I don't see how we could have done this because we were pushing it from the grassroots. You gotta have top down, you gotta have your leadership bought into it. You gotta create that business need if you're changing the systems and structures for this type of initiative. Because it does, creating CVTs, training folks, it costs some money to especially train 10,000 people within the organization. Just the travel budget alone is insane. Driving and sustaining a renewal initiative requires a discipline, oversight, buy-in, do your homework. Again, oversight. You know, we hit that point again, and there I have only 27% of my leaders, and we're halfway through the year that have only maintained their certification. Now I got to chase them again. So it's just you got to stay on it, got to stay on it. Communication change strategy. You have to get other people involved. I mean, that is key. You got to create the shared need. What's in it for them? Why are we doing it? You got to get everybody comfortable, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody. You can't believe how sometimes the ship goes right if one or two people or one or two groups don't like it. So you got to really have those conversations and spend a lot of time explaining what you're doing. Metrics and measures, and the infrastructure must be well thought through. You know, you got to do your homework up front, what you're doing and how you're going to measure it, what tools you're going to have for people to look at if you're requiring them to do these things. Stuff's got to be, e-business is going to be, or IT is going to be your best friend or your worst enemy, you know, and this sort of thing. So is HR. And then a trainer network. We couldn't do this alone. I mean, there was 8 of us in my group. You have to leverage that trainer network. You have to do training sessions. They have day jobs. Our outside training network has day jobs. We're devoted 100%. So for them to come in and teach a class, it's cookies, it's pop, it's whatever they need to make them feel good, because you gotta have it. You gotta have them in your back pocket. So, quick questions. I think we got I'm sandwiching you and a good lunch, by the way. The hotel at Kirkwood, this place is phenomenal. So, any questions? Again, I have the slide deck, has a bunch of backup slides that show, and I can, in the appendix, you can see some of the dashboards or the tools. There's the one quick shot of the certification tracking that each employee, when they sign into the computer, can see. Here's our website. I'm sorry that we have all of our quick use tools out on the School of Lean, which is very simple. It's not our actual website. Our actual website gets pretty busy, but this is for the
Oh, that's not?
no.
So do you guys, as your team, do you go through the grading process for your books and things like that?
Yeah.
Which ones did you?
Yeah, and I require the team actually to add to it. Now that we've added to this, we're adding books to our library all the time. I was just telling Gary that I started out in '97 stealing from his library now.
You didn't steal your
I was borrowing. I was a member, yeah, but I mean, your library got us going on that, so. Again, so all this is in there. This is a piece of some of the drop downs that we have for choosing the education or activity requirements. Here's some of the screenshots from the self-assessment tool, so you can get skills, knowledge, and concepts and abilities type examples. I did that for you. Here's some of the dashboard metrics on people that have completed their Lean certification by org that we've set up. So I just went through some of that for you if you want to use that. You know, this primer's here.
I have one question for
Yeah.
you. So if you're hiring somebody new and they need to be associates, right?
Yeah.
So do you have a certain time frame in which they do that as part of their onboarding process?
1 year. So we've worked with HR to create an onboarding roadmap.
Okay.
And Lean is a chunk on there, and they have other mandatory, compliance type things, ethics types training that they have to take. But Lean is embedded right in there that says within a year, within the first month, you have to do the Lean at Rockwell Collins overview. Within the first 6 months, you have to do the 8-step problem solving, and within a year, you have to be associate certified.
They do a good job of sending your reminder emails.
Yeah, and that's all worked through Rockwell Collins University. So, any other questions? All right, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the day.